you've been investing quite a while, and it wasn't until recently until you really ramped up. So maybe tell us a little bit more about how you got started in real estate, and maybe why did you get started in real estate, and kind of what did you do early on?
So early on, I started out house hacking. So my husband and I, we purchased a property that had a basement apartment, literally because we had no money and we couldn't afford to live in our own place, right? And we heard about this creative idea that to purchase a place that had basement apartment you could rent out, and it was fantastic, and it worked really well for us. We only paid like $100 a month to live there, and the property had a pool. I mean, how awesome is that? So after we did that first property out of necessity, really, then I started thinking, there's something to this real estate game and I've got to figure it out. So started reading all the books, self-educating, figuring out what to do. And we then went on for the next 15 years. We acquired, many single family homes, small multis, launched our own property management company. And we're really just working in the business, but it was DIY. It was literally everything was DIY. We were mowing the lawns, we were fixing the toilets, we were, screening the tenants and taking the calls at 2 a.m. And, it was a lot of work. And I hit a point where I was just tired. Like, I'm so tired of all this work and effort, and there's got to be a better way. And so that's when I started looking into large multifamily.
Well, hold on before you get there, because
yes.
Maybe you're a bit of a slow learner. I don't know, 15 years of this. Like, holy moly. A lot of people are like, I'm not doing more than 2 years of this stuff. Like, okay, so what's the extent of your portfolio? Like, how many houses did you have? How many hours was it taking up your time? Like, give me a little sense of the scale.
Yeah. So I mean, the portfolio wasn't that big because remember, it was just a side thing, right? So it was about 15 units at the max is when at our height, at the peak, I guess, when we had it.
At the peak of the insanity was 15 units.
Right.
Okay.
And then as far as time, well, it sucked a lot of time. I mean, I was spending, 4 or 5 hours a day on these properties because it was because
a day.
Literally doing everything myself.
I was thinking like a week, a day. Wow. That's holy moly. That's like, that's like 20 hours a week right there on 15 units. Now, let me ask you the obvious question. Why did it take you so long to kind of go, there's got to be something else? Like, why didn't you look for another solution earlier on? Did you maybe just not know it was like, this is it? If I want real estate, this is it? Or why did you not make a shift earlier?
So I think the reason I did not shift earlier is because, one, limiting beliefs, right? Like we thought we had to do it all ourselves and that we had to just use our own money. Like using someone else's money was scary. That was doing creative financing. Nope, not going to do that. Let's just do everything the traditional way. And that's how I learned and how I grew. And so the limiting belief about partnering with others. The other problem that I had was that I'm a pretty introverted person. And so I did not attend like real estate meetups. I didn't network with other real estate people. So I didn't know that, what the late night real estate gurus were saying was actually true. Right? So you'd hear them talk about some creative way to buy properties, and it was like, is that true or is that just a bunch of baloney? I don't know. But I wasn't networking and I wasn't getting out, and I literally didn't know any other investors who were like me who were purchasing properties, and none of my friends were doing it. None of them ever wanted to talk about it. Like if I brought it up, they'd be like, let's talk about our nails. And I'm like, I don't talk about nails. I can talk about hammer and nails. Like that's the kind of nails that I do. So I think, yes, definitely slow learner in that I just didn't know a better way. And I didn't know how to do anything different. It was just all on my own shoulders.
So Camilla, how did you overcome those limiting beliefs that kept you from really scaling and becoming financially free?
So the first thing was just desire, right? Like I had
pain. Shall we say pain?
Pain as well. Well, I had this strong desire, and the funny thing is, I didn't realize how much pain I was in until I learned a better way, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this the hard way this whole time. That was that was a sad day. But desire, like, so I have this deep innate desire to succeed, to do well, to build and scale and go for more, and felt like I was made for more. And so I'd always had buy an apartment complex on my vision board, and I finally hit the point where I'm like, you know what? It's time. It's time to buy that apartment complex. And so I start looking at, how do you even buy an apartment complex? Well, they cost millions of dollars. I'd never purchased a property over $1 million in my whole investing career. Everything was under $1 million. And I took a peek at my bank account. I'm like, yeah, sure enough, not $1 million in there. So how am I going to buy one of these big properties? And so I start looking around, and as I was educated and listening to some podcasts and reading books, I realized it was the partnering factor. Like, you've got to partner with others. You got to put together a group of people to buy this apartment complex. You just don't do it on your own, unless you already have millions of dollars in your bank account. And I guess you could, right? But you probably better to partner anyway. And so then I'm thinking, okay, partnering. Well, I don't know if I trust other people, because I remember those times in elementary and high school where they put you in groups and do the group science project. And yeah, guess who did all the work? This girl right here. And everybody else could freeload, and they sure could, because I let them, because I was intent on making sure I did it well and got the grade and did that. So thinking, okay, well, if I can't trust people to do like a group research paper, how am I going to trust them to run a multi-million-dollar acquisition with me? So that was a limiting belief of mine as well. But I knew that I just had this really deep desire to accomplish the goal. And so I said, well, you got to get over it. You got to start meeting people. And that's when I started going to meetups and started talking to other people and really listening and learning and understanding who's who in the multifamily space. Because once you get into it, you realize it's pretty small, pretty small community. We, a lot of us know each other and know of each other. And as you learn and grow, and then partnerships just kind of start materializing, and you jump into one, and then you keep going.
Is that how you partnered your way into a larger deal?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I got my first deal, was I partnered. So when I was learning about multifamily, I knew that I kind of put the roles, the multifamily roles of a general partnership into 4 categories. You have the acquisition specialist, you have an underwriter, you have the capital raiser, you have the asset manager. And as I kind of tried out each of those roles and thought about my background and what am I good at, I settled on capital raising. I wanted to be a really good capital raiser. And so that was the value that I was going to bring to a team. And then it was just a matter of networking and finding a strong lead sponsor who has the experience and to partner with in order to be able to jump onto their boat and help row the boat a little bit by bringing in capital and doing asset management.
Now, why capital? You just mentioned a little while ago that you struggle with being introverted. Now, typically, I don't find too many introverted capital raisers. They're normally the number crunchers, Why capital raising? Why is that your strength? Why is that something you enjoy doing?
Yeah, so I enjoy capital raising because I'm a teacher at heart, and I enjoy teaching other people better ways to do things. And so, as an introvert, I know it sounds funny that I enjoy teaching, but I do. I like to teach others how to better their lives, really. And so raising capital, I think, is a perfect investment for introverts. So, a passive investing, right? So if you're a passive investor and you're an introvert, like, those two go together really well, because you get the opportunity to really take your time to analyze a deal and look at it and to understand it and figure out who the sponsors are, figure out the market, and you can do all the research that you want all day long. And then you invest passively, and you don't have to interact with any of the tenants. You don't have to interact with the sponsor team if you don't want to. You don't have to interact with the contractors. You can just simply make your money grow. And I think that's what's so amazing. And so as I thought about this, because I invested passively first myself, so we sold the single families, and we moved that money into a passive investment in large multifamily. And I thought that was so amazing. What we could achieve was almost better than what we did with single family, to be honest. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I got to teach others about this.
How do you define being an introvert? Like, what does that mean to you? Because I think it means something different for like myself. Like, I actually probably consider myself an introvert in certain ways, but maybe explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the way I define introversion versus extroversion is how you rejuvenate. Like, how do you get energy? So extroverts, they get energy by being around other people, right? So their energy multiplies when other people are around. For introverts, our energy goes down when we're around other people. And so we regain energy by being alone or in silence, or reading a book, or going on walks in nature, or things like that. And so it's not that introverts can't interact with people, and we can't have relationships, and we can't go to networking events and be okay talking to people. It's just the stuff like that drains us. It doesn't energize us, right? And so that's how I think about introversion.
But it's interesting. Your desire to teach trumps your introverted nature, right? Because you do have to actually talk to people. It's against your nature to talk to people on an ongoing basis, but your desire to teach others and maybe even change their lives trumps that. I find that really interesting. There's not a conflict there for you? This is something that works for you?
No, so there's no conflict because I do it in small chunks. Right. I mean, if I was doing it every day, all day, if I had investor calls every day, all day, that would drain me, and I would not be doing well. But I have the ability to schedule my time, and so I know when I need to have the energy and like pour into people, and I know when I need to take time to rejuvenate.
Now, the other thing you said is that you're teaching people. I think you said you're trying to make an impact with people. Why do you think you're making an impact by teaching passive investors to invest with you? Like, what's the impact here? What's the difference that makes in people?
Well, I think about my own story, right? I mean, there's people out there just like me that have been doing the slog for years and years and years, and just simply don't know a better way. And that's why I'm excited to find those people who are out there just, plugging away, hard workers, right? They're willing to get their hands dirty, and I applaud that for them. But at some point, you hit a point where you're like, is this worth it? Is this worth it? And really, there's a better way. I mean, I think we all get into real estate with the idea of freedom, of time freedom. Like at some point, our real estate is going to give us the time freedom and the financial freedom that we really want. But passively investing can accelerate that time freedom for sure.